Oh, how do I do this? No. Hello, 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 hello. Okay. Log into your Zoom account by visiting Zoom's official website. No, settings, my account.
Hi, Doug.
Shakina.
How are you?
I'm okay. How about yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for
Good.
setting this up.
Well, don't thank me yet because I'm trying to figure out how to make sure that you can share the screen. But for some reason, won't let me do it now. Did you want to try to do that now?
Yeah, I right now it still says screen sharing is disabled for me, so you'll
Okay.
need to make me a host by clicking on participants and then
Okay.
clicking on more next to my name. I think that's where I might say make host or make co-host.
Okay. Let's do that. You know this more than I do. It's great. Click on,
So click on participants.
yeah.
Then you should see my name appear on the right hand of your screen and then click on, it might say more or there'll be an option somewhere where it says make co-host.
Co-host.
Do you see that? If not, there's another option as well. But you try that first and then I'll tell you what the other way of doing that is.
It says claim host. Is that the same thing as enable?
Claim host.
I don't know what that means.
Huh. Who else could be the host then if not? Yeah. Oh, try something else. Do you see a security option at the bottom? Or privacy, it should say privacy or security. Do you see that?
No, I don't.
Where you found the participants, it should be in that same row.
Nope.
No, that's strange. That could mean that you're not a host either. Then I wonder who the host is.
Let me go to, because I was on my settings for my Zoom settings. I wonder if I'm just a participant.
Yeah, because I don't see host next to your name actually, which is strange because usually you would know who the host was, and I don't see that next to your name.
Okay. Upcoming. Join. No. What did I do? Anything. Back up to the screen. Claim host. Enter the host key to claim the host role. So what is the host key?
I was hoping you would have the key. I clicked on claim host as well. I didn't have the key, obviously.
Host
Well, someone in your tech department would. I mean, whoever this particular Zoom room belongs to.
I got my email and then search all Zoom. Key. I'm pointing the tech.
Okay.
Jason, it's Doug Fleming here. Can you please give me a call? 613-247-2074. Thanks. There's one tech. He's not there. Hi, I'm trying to host a, who am I speaking with, please? Yeah, Paul, I'm Doug Fleming. I'm faculty of education. I'm trying to host a Zoom meeting. Do you have any information about how I can access the host key? That's right. Yeah, I don't know about that. Let's see. Yeah, I did it through. So sorry, but you're not distance. You're multimedia. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it would be in the original email that was sent to me from distance. Is that right? All right. Let me find it. It's in about 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, thanks. It's Fleming, F-L-E-M-I-N-G. Go through my emails. Through distance, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to find the passcode. I can't find it in my email. That's the problem. Yeah, okay. Second. Find it. Okay. That's not helping me. Oh, I see. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So the meeting ID is 935-4873-7735. Sure. 935-4873-7735. Hello. Hi, sorry, I got cut off. Do you want me to repeat that meeting ID? Fleming, Fleming, yeah.
Hi,
Yeah.
Shakina. Hi, Doug.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Antoinette.
Have you been able to share your screen?
Sorry?
Doug is just working that out with IT. He doesn't have host access yet. No one in the room does. So he's just trying to get host permission so he can make us co-host.
4873775. Is that correct? Oh, dear God. All right, well, let's try launching it again. We'll be a few minutes, folks.
It's only 3:58. We're good.
Oh.
Yeah, so it turns out no one's a host in this particular room. So since Douglas is not a host, oh, someone is a host now.
Jason Ball's the
Jason.
host.
Jason Ball, I think that's my tech.
Yay.
548737775. Claiming the host. Host key is invalid. So Jason, okay. I have 925 4873 775. 1, 2, 3. Jason, can you hear me? I can't. I put in the host key to claim the host role. Oh, he just co-hosted. Jason, we also need Shakina to be a co-host.
And
And
Antoinette
Antoinette.
too, please.
Hi, Doug.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Good. Intensely stressed at the moment.
I try not to think about the word of stress. Because it doesn't help me.
Okay, man.
So, Jason, can you make Shakina co-host, please, as well?
And Antoinette, please.
And where are you? Oh, and sorry, and Antoinette Gagné and Shakina Rajendram. Aha, Shakina.
Yep, I am a co-host now. And Antoinette, you're co-host too.
And Annette Gagné should be a co-host as well.
There we go.
Great.
Perfect.
Life saver, Jason. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason.
No problem.
Let's Great. Phew. So, Shakina, how would you like to proceed? Do you want to give everyone a few minutes? I mean, we're only 1 minute late.
Whatever you advise. If you want us to wait a couple of minutes, we can do that. So tell us when to start.
Oh, we got
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. I see some OISE people here too.
Yes.
Some of your students, perhaps, Antoinette.
And some friends.
And some friends.
Hi, Thursika.
I was wondering if that was our Thursika. I was wondering if that was our Thursika.
I think it's our Thursika. She's the only Thursika I know.
Same here. Hi, Mimi.
Hi, Francis. Or Francis, rather.
Hi, Francis. Hi.
Sorry, I was muted. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
It's been a Zooming day for me, at least.
Oh, really? This is, no, it's kind of our lives. I mean, it's Zoom. We try them all, right? Zoom, Teams, Skype.
Yes, we're plurilingual when it comes to technologies, aren't we?
Exactly. Oh, actually, I then tried the Chinese one, Vove.
Oh, what's it called?
Vove, V-O-V-O-O-V. Vove.
Oh.
Vove. Yeah, so yeah, it's quite something. So it's good to have you. Welcome. Nice.
Yes.
And I noticed that we met Shakina.
Mimi introduced us once actually. I think that was at the Cerebral conference at Ottawa, but that was forever ago.
I know. So good to see you again.
Yeah, recording's now started. And should I let you guys introduce yourselves?
Sure. And Antoinette, could you put your presentation on full screen, please, if that's okay?
Oh, I thought I had.
Oh,
it is on full screen on our side.
It was not.
I'll do it again.
Yeah. Sometimes it lags behind for certain people.
Is it sharing in full screen for you now? For others?
Yeah,
I don't have
that's
full
great.
screen.
Yep. Okay. Shakina, why don't you start off introducing yourself?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I just got a scare. Hello. Oh, sorry. Zoom keeps saying that it's crashing for me. So, can everyone hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, great. Just when you need Zoom to hold up. But hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Shakina Rajendram. I'm an assistant professor in the teaching stream at OISE. And Antoinette, over to you.
And I'm also at OISE and in the same department as Shakina, which is curriculum, teaching, and learning. And we're really excited to be here with you today to make the presentation dynamic. We will be taking turns presenting, but in slightly larger blocks. So I'll start off and then Shakina will take over and then I'll come back at the end of the presentation. We have a lot that we'd like to share with you. And you can see where we're heading. We're going to give you a little bit of backdrop of the research in which me mapping was embedded. Then we're going to talk about our field work with educators and youth, and then move into how we've integrated what we call me mapping into our teacher education program, and in particular into one of our courses focused on supporting English learners. And then it's all about what we've learned and the implications at various levels. Me Mapping was related to two funded projects. One that focused on the social and academic integration of children and youth of refugee background. And this is just a poster to give you an overall sense of our very wonderful team and the various sites and overall objectives. I'm not expecting you to read it all, but I just want to be able to contrast this with later the second project. So our objectives in this particular project, the SAIRCY project, was to describe the educational experiences of students of refugee backgrounds in elementary and secondary schools, to explore the intersecting factors that impact their integration at school and in the community, to understand the roles played by the home and school languages in their integration process, and to bring light to promising practices that support their integration. The other project we refer to as the CEL project, it was also a SSHRC-funded multi-stranded project. And again, a wonderful and diverse research team supporting the work. Our research objectives were quite different. We were doing a policy ethnography and trying to determine whether Ontario's teacher education policy is consistent with the diversity, strengths, and needs of English learners, and to identify how teacher candidates, teacher educators, and practicing teachers and local boards interpret and enact Ontario's new policy requirement that involves preparing all future teachers to support and meet the needs of English learners in their classrooms. So I don't think I need to say much beyond the fact that we are a very large province with many of our 14 million strong population being born outside of Canada. We have many schools, many school districts, and in those districts, we have nearly a quarter of all students, nearly 2 million who are formally identified as English learners. So we did have some goals for both of these research projects, which are overlapping and common. So we wanted to learn about who Ontario's English learners are through identity-focused activities called Me Mapping. Our goal was also to develop multimedia portraits of diverse English learners to determine whether Ontario's teacher education policy is consistent with the diversity, strengths, and needs of English learners. And we wanted to integrate Me Mapping and the portraits of English learners into our mandatory course and our Master of Teaching called Supporting English Learners, which supports our teacher candidates in learning how to work with their diverse students. So what is Me Mapping? Me Mapping activities are focused on English learners' identities, as well as their experiences and perspectives on the world around them. And there are a number of different topics that we explore in Me Mapping activities. They include their linguistic repertoire, important milestones in their lives, their multiple identities, their experiences at school, their hopes and aspirations for their future, And Me Mapping activities combine a focus on language proficiency development, as well as the production of multimedia artifacts. And we used an application called Flipgrid to make this possible. So for those who may not be familiar, this is a screenshot from Flipgrid, which is an application that you can use on a computer, a tablet, or a phone. And it allows the educator or the researcher to create prompts that participants can respond to through recorded videos. And it's kind of a message board of sorts, but with video discussion possibilities, because students can respond to each other's videos within this app. So what are some of the underlying theories that in fact inform me mapping? We can go back to the roots, where we find humanizing pedagogy as proposed by Freire. And then we have transformative multi-literacies pedagogy and the literacy expertise framework that Jim Cummins has described in a number of places. And also translanguaging pedagogy, which has really come to the forefront as an important underlying theory informing our work. And finally, Keat's et al.'s notion of mutual vulnerability is an important piece that I will come back to at the end. So who were our participants? We had 110 5 to 19-year-olds, and we worked collaboratively with individual English learners in different parts of Ontario, as well as 3 NGOs and several schools in the Greater Toronto Area. Our participants were incredibly diverse. You can see from the places they have lived, the languages they know, that they were a really wonderful group of people to work with. So how did we collect our data and in fact put together these me maps? Well, we, in some cases, worked with children in their own homes on a one-to-one basis, of course, with their parental approval. We used a lot of our own networks. We also worked in various community agencies, and you can see some images of this particular setting. And we worked in classrooms in traditional schools as well. And you can see an example of that here. In fact, you can see how one of the educators who we worked with actually made space in her day with her students to welcome us to do me mapping activities with the students. So a wonderful and very welcoming environment. So what happens in these me mapping workshops? Well, typically the focal point are these interactive and multimodal activities that are identity focused, and there's usually a preparation phase, a rehearsal phase, a video phase, and a follow-up phase. So lots of interaction and focus on the learner. These are images, and we can see students here rehearsing. We can also see teacher providing support to students as they're in the process of filming each other. We see some turn taking around either being the videographer and director or the actor. We're actually also seeing students here reviewing their videos to decide whether or not they're happy or with the result, or they'd like to actually do another take. So in these images, you can see how students have used the products that they developed in this sort of warm up and preparation stage, whether it be a timeline or an identity portrait. Here are some other examples of a child attending different workshops, and you can see how we've integrated the short videos and combined them to generate one integrated video with subtitles. So you can see that we have a wide range of students who have taken part and contributed their wonderful Me Maps, which are posted on a website, and we'll share again, perhaps in the chat space. Shakina, you could place the link to the Me Mapping video.
Sure, I'll
page.
do that.
So some samples from this work, which actually now has developed into including guides for teachers who might like to try Me Mapping with their own students in their various environments. So you can find on that same site that Shakina is going to share all of these different resources that you can inspire yourself from. They include the video prompts as well as links to activity sheets and so on. So this is an example of a priming activity to get students ready to prepare their own linguistic portrait as one of the many different kinds of Me Mapping activities. And you can see that the process is often multi-step, with students who might be brainstorming, using chart paper. They might be writing or reading or dancing or drawing. There's a lot of different types of preparation activities that are adapted to the age group. And typically we have a prompt that provides an example for the students so that they can get a sense of what our goal is in terms of a final product. So this is one of our team members, Katie Brubaker, who's also an ESL teacher in the Peel School District Board, sharing her prompt. I'm not going to take the time to show you this because you can tap into it online on the website. These show some of the student portraits that the participants spoke to during the video component using Flipgrid. And I will just share this and hope that you can all hear, just as a quick example of Zakia's whoops.
A picture. This is the languages I speak. Farsi, English, and Arabic. I listen to sounds. So I'm on my ear, and here in my ears, it's purple because I listen to Arabic songs. On my head, it's Farsi because mostly I speak Farsi. And here it's English, it's blue because in school I speak English.
So this gives you a sense of one element in a larger Me Map where Zakia is sharing her portrait. Another popular activity amongst our participants involved them sharing a timeline with major events in their lives. Here's a brief description of the activity. We encouraged the students to look back, and look forward on their timeline. And in this case, the prompt was me and my timeline, which goes back way further than theirs. They always have a chuckle when they see my timeline. And you can see some photos of different students' timelines that they prepared in advance of sharing them on Flipgrid. So you can see that there are a lot of different ways of conceptualizing a timeline, with, in some cases, students showing us highs and lows. And just a brief clip from Akifa sharing her timeline.
Hi everyone, my last name is. So this is like my timeline, and I'm gonna start now. So I'm born on April 20, 2007 in Afghanistan. So like the part that was okay for me, it was moving to Canada because like I felt more safe there and more secure there. And I was 4 years older. I was very small. Then my highlight, that was like the best part of my life, that I learned English. I could communicate with people and to understand what they're saying. That was 2016, and I was really happy for making friends there also. So this is the part that.
Another example of one of our Me Mapping activities involved inviting the students to imagine themselves 10 years from now. And this image is one of the prompts that the students would see on Flipgrid, where in addition to being able to watch a video prompt, they also had the opportunity to just look at the questions. So this is a brief glimpse into one of these.
My goal is when I grow up to be a teacher. I just like to teach other people how to speak the way like my other teacher told me how, or the way they teach me how to speak English and everything. I just like to tell people and teach people the way that my teacher taught me when I came to Canada. And I hope all the teachers that they teach me are like my teachers before.
Isn't it? Whoops. We were very excited that one of our participants was considering a career in teaching. Whoops. Here is another example of a fully integrated Me Map video. This is briefly Malik.
My name is. I am 11 years old. I speak English, French, and Arabic. I live in Toronto. Hi, my timeline. I born in 2007 in Syria. Then I left Syria and I left Syria because.
And here is yet another example.
guys, the best day of my life was like when my dad told me we were gonna go to swimming. He just told us, and I was like, yay, hooray, yay! I was dancing all around until tomorrow.
Sorry. All right, now that you have a sense of what we did in the field in terms of actually pulling together these Me Maps, I'm going to pass it over to Shakina, who will take you into the world of teacher education and how Me Maps have come alive there.
Well, thank you, Antoinette, for that wonderful introduction to me mapping. So Antoinette and I are both instructors, and Antoinette's the course lead for a course called CTL 7019, Supporting English Language Learners. And this is a course in our Master of Teaching program at OISE. So a little bit of background information on this course. It is a half-year course. We have 12 3-hour classes, and it is a mandatory course for teacher candidates across all teaching divisions. And in order to bridge theory, research, and practice for our teacher candidates and help them to learn how to support ELLs in a more practical manner, we thought it would be a really great idea to integrate some of those me mapping activities and videos that we created in those 2 projects in our CTL 7019 course. So I'll just show you some of the ways that we did this because I know we're at time. I'll show you some of the ways that I did this, and we're also going to talk about what our TCs have been learning through those Me Map videos. So first of all, I thought it was important for my TCs to engage in those activities, those identity-focused activities themselves. And here are some examples of me mapping activities that my TCs did in our classes. So they created linguistic portraits, but slightly different. They created linguistic portraits of themselves as plurilingual teachers instead of plurilingual learners. They created identity texts and identity poems. Doug, you were talking about an identity flower, and Mimi will recognize this, but this is a language flower at the bottom right of the screen, where we identified the different languages around us, languages that we would like to speak, languages that are represented in our communities, and so on. I also had my TCs create their own timelines as well. And because we're out of time, I won't play this video. But after they engaged in the me mapping activities themselves, they integrated those artifacts that they created, those me mapping artifacts that they created, into several of their assignments and different tasks that I had assigned to them in the course. So one assignment was called the plurilingual journey assignment, where they had to reflect on the relationship between their own language, culture, and identity. And I'll quickly show you some examples of how my thesis integrated those me mapping artifacts in their plurilingual journey assignment. So this just requires me to switch over to a different screen. So give me 1 second. And yeah, so this was a blog post created by one of my TCs. And you'll see that a lot of beautiful artifacts that she embedded within this blog post, including that identity text poem here at the bottom that we had created together in our me mapping workshop. Here's another plurilingual journey submission in the form of a Google Slides presentation, and the TC created a Bitmoji version of herself, and then created little videos, and one of the videos was an example of her describing her language repertoire using that language flower that again we had created together in the me mapping workshop. This is another sample of a video that a student created, again, embedding the language flower. So they went on to intentionally choose some of those me mapping artifacts to represent their language, culture, and identity. Just back to this slide. Okay, another way that TCs were learning from the me map videos of our ELs was through an assignment called the profile of an ELL assignment. So here they had to select and watch a video of any ELL from any age group from that website that I shared with you in the chat box. In addition, they had to do their own research on the background of the learner, and then they practiced using the STEP assessment tool to track the language proficiency of that learner, and they had to make recommendations that were really specific to the needs, the level, and the strengths and and background experiences of that particular learner. And again, I'll show you some examples of how, of what the final profile of an ELL submission looked like. So this was an assignment submitted in the form of a PowerPoint, where you'll see that my TCs, selected a learner that they felt they could really relate to. They created a really beautiful asset-based profile of this learner. They did some research about Arabic because Basil had mentioned that Arabic was his home language. And then they practiced the step assessment, and they went on to make recommendations that were really specifically intended to support Basil. Some other examples. So this was another profile of an ELL assignment from another TC who selected Yasser, who was a refugee ELL from Syria. She recreated a timeline since she had done a timeline herself in the Me Mapping workshop. She thought it'd be nice to recreate Yasser's timeline, and then similarly identify gaps in his profile, identify important moments in his life, important contextual information about his home country, important contextual information about the languages that he spoke, and then the TC went on to make recommendations that were really tailored to Yasser's needs and interests. One other assignment that embedded the Me Map videos and activities was called the ELL Connect Unit and Lesson Plans assignment, where they had to create a 5-lesson unit overview and then several detailed lesson plans that would be adapted for the ELLs in their classroom. And I didn't want the ELL support piece to just be an add-on, because I noticed some of my TCs doing this where they would just throw in an additional multilingual word wall or just an additional accommodation. Instead of that, I wanted the supporting ELLs piece to be a really important and fun foundational element of their lesson planning. And so I had them choose these real learners from the website and create lessons that would be customized to the levels and the needs of these particular learners. And I found that doing that resulted in lesson plans and unit plans that were so much richer in terms of the strategies for supporting ELLs. And I'll show you some of those examples. So this was a unit plan for grade 3 science. And you'll see that my TCs, they created a classroom scenario with learners from the Me Mapping project. So Aboud, Erlinda was somebody else, but Kairi and Amelia were all those real ELLs that we had worked with for our project, Shazzy as well. And in terms of the in terms of the activities, the assessment strategies, the resources, in terms of language objectives and so on, all of these were specifically, my TCs were specifically keeping the needs of those real learners in mind. And here's another example of a unit plan. This was also a science one, a grade for a unit plan, but just to quickly show you one important part of the unit plan, you'll see that my TCs, right from the very beginning of the unit planning process, they were thinking about how they could modify their instruction and provide those important accommodations and other activities for the particular, to suit the particular needs of real learners, Wasim, Rashid, and so on. Right. So in terms of the research aspect of it, we collected artifacts of our TC's work from the course. We conducted focus groups with 23 TCs as well. And we've just started doing conducting the analysis of all of this data, but we did want to end by, we're not ending quite yet. We need a few more minutes, but we wanted to just present to you some of the initial emergent themes from our analysis of the focus group data. So what have TCs been learning when those real videos of real learners around Ontario have been integrated in their classes? One important thing that has come up is that it's helped the TCs in our program to really find ways to identify with their learners through shared experiences. Here, I probably won't be able to read out all these quotes, but I have put in bold just the main points in each quote. But a TC called Mira talked about being able to identify with the Syrian refugees because she came from Lebanon and she knew firsthand what it was like to go through some of the experiences that those learners went through. Brenda talked about seeing a lot of herself in Shazi, actually. And Samira said that, yeah, she too recognized some things that were similar to her. She didn't come from the same cultural background, but she said that she did celebrate Eid. And so she felt like there was, something that they had in common, Samira and the one of the learners that she selected for her assignment. Another big theme was getting to know learners and humanizing their needs. So at the beginning of the course, many TCs had not had any experience with ELLs. And so for them, ELL was just a label. They didn't see the face behind the label, the human being behind that label. But getting to see those real learners, doing additional research on those learners' real lives, helped them to put that human perspective. So I'm just trying to get the mouse spotlighted. So it helped to put that human perspective or bring that human touch. And Nicholas says that it brought the individual into the whole statistics. And he said that at the beginning of the course, learning about ELL seemed really distant, or it didn't seem relevant. But as soon as you put a face to the numbers, you see that these are real people. I cared a lot more for the issue as soon as I saw these children. And Mira said it helps to humanize their needs. Again, we're not just reading about it on the news or in a Supporting ELs document. We're bringing in a human face and a body into these needs. We're seeing who these learners are. And Justin said that he had never had an opportunity to teach any students from a refugee background or any ELL. So it was the first time he had exposure to students of that background, and he learned that they're not defined by their experience. There's so much more to them. They're outgoing, they're energetic, they're enthusiastic. So he learned that they're not defined by the background or that label of being an ELL. And once they saw who the learners really were, they were able to really plan lessons that were based on these students' real needs, their strengths, their lived experiences, and their backgrounds. So Brenda said that now she realizes that she has to cater her lessons to ELLs right from the beginning of the lesson planning process, thinking about their strengths and their interests, rather than just having, as I said before, the ELL piece just being an add-on component. Kyrie said that, he's now started thinking about every time he creates a lesson, he thinks about what do I know about my learners, my ELLs in this class, and how can I leverage what I know about them in their learning? What kind of language activities would lend themselves well to those interests? And Kyrie went on to, Kyrie's training to be a phys ed teacher, and he went on to create an amazing phys ed unit where language learning was embedded all throughout because he saw the needs of the real learners from those me mapping videos. And next, and really importantly, it helped TCs to think about linguistically and culturally responsive instruction, but not through a heroes and holidays approach, but really thinking about it being a centerpiece of everything they do in the classroom. So Prina talked about how, when she was an ELL, she wasn't encouraged to speak her home language, but now seeing these learners and how they're so comfortable and confident in their L1, she realizes how important it is to actually not go on to recreate the same English only type of environment that she was in, but to really encourage the use of their home languages through translanguaging. And Keisha said that she realizes it's important for them to be able to express their identity. And she reflected back on herself or her own background and said that she used to really enjoy talking about her home country and her background experiences as an immigrant. But she realized that she wasn't doing that anymore because she wasn't put in situations where she was encouraged to tell her story or talk about where she came from. And so she reclaimed that question of where are you from? And she said that now I'm really proud of telling people where I'm from and just being proud of my own identity as a racialized TC. And finally, Nicholas said that, he's learned to acknowledge that it's important not only for my ELLs to embrace their culture, but for me to learn about myself and to embrace my own plurilingual and pluricultural repertoire. And he said that has been a pedagogical shift for him. Yeah, so we have also created a guide for teacher educators. So based on all of those activities that I shared with you, a lot more activities that I did with my TCs, I've put these activities together along with what my TC said about how they helped with their learning how to support ELLs. So I put all of these together into a guide for teacher educators, which can also be found on the website. And of course, we're going to continue on with our analysis of the artifacts and of the focus groups, and we hope to be sharing with you maybe in another EduLang seminar. But Antoinette's going to wrap things up by talking about what does this mean in terms of teacher education, classroom teaching and research. Are you still on mute, Antoinette? Sorry.
Thanks, Shakina. That was a really wonderful whirlwind tour. Thank you for that. So if you can go to the next slide. First of all, when we think about classrooms, I think one of the direct implications is that we all need to embrace humanizing pedagogy and infuse it in our work with children and youth. We also need to have identity-focused activities that span the curriculum. So not reserving these types of activities for the pull-out class for English learners when they first arrive, or for just certain spaces that might lend themselves to this. So scaffolding and support is another important aspect of doing this kind of work. We discovered that students of different age, in different age groups, need different levels of scaffolding and support to be able to engage in these, but when it is provided, it has very positive outcomes. Yep. So we saw how using Me Mapping was a real catalyst for learning and growth. We saw English learners taking control of their learning. We saw high levels of motivation to express themselves orally. And we saw environments where teachers and facilitators and students really opened up and became vulnerable to each other. And so a real sense of solidarity emerged amidst the students and all of the workshop participants. We know from these early, I guess, findings that you've just heard Shakina share, that we should be encouraging teacher candidates to work with Me Maps of diverse students. It really helps them challenge some of their own biases. Me mapping activities have also helped our TCs to imagine ways to incorporate students' languages and experience in academic content. It's also created spaces for teacher candidates to discuss their own lives, their own prior learning experiences and their norms and values. And it essentially has created an important space where our teacher candidates feel that they are valued, their languages are valued, their cultural experiences are legitimized. So in finishing then, our collaboration with teacher candidates, educators, and English learners has not only confirmed what we, I think, started off with in terms of our beliefs around the importance of humanizing pedagogy, but we also learned about the importance of developing places and spaces for mutual vulnerability. So remembering that we're human and allowing for that humanness to be part of the learning environment. This applied research has also pushed us to reflect deeply on how we move from exclusion to inclusion in teacher education as well as in elementary and secondary schools. We continue to ponder about where a broader sense of belonging comes from and how to create it. In fact, I'll just leave you with Gagné's thought: friendships grow from people of different backgrounds and cultures because they meet as persons, not because they share a common heritage or any other shared aspects of their identity. So thank you. And we're super happy at this point to take your questions. And these are some places where you can learn more about our work. And I think we can stop sharing and perhaps open up for discussion.
Thank you so much. I'm going to unmute everyone. I hope that doesn't lead to chaos, but let me know if it gets to be too much. I'll monitor the chat, and I might at certain points, if people prefer to ask questions or participate through the chat, I might interrupt and say, I've got a question from the chat or whatever. Okay, does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'm unmuting everyone. And so please have at it.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi. I just turned my camera on because it's nice to see people.
Yes, it's nice to see people. I agree.
And I
Have
apologize.
any burning questions for us?
I have one. I'm really interested in how the ELLs then, if there's a change in their relationship with other students, with the English students. I mean, the first language English students, if you looked at that at all.
The contexts where we collected data didn't allow us to learn the answer to your question. When we conducted workshops in community organizations, all of the students were newcomers that came together either after school or on Saturdays. When we spent time in schools, we were often working with the English second language or LEAP teachers who would welcome us into their classrooms that again were spaces only with English learners or newcomers typically. And finally, we also did some data gathering in individual students' homes. So then, of course, we couldn't see that. But that would be a really interesting question to take up. What we can share is that when we have done some sharing of the final products with children, youth, their families, their teachers, that there has been a mix of emotions, with some students beaming with pride, and with other students sharing feelings of maybe some embarrassment or vulnerability because they, feeling quite exposed when they actually see the Me Map from end to end. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Jan. Yeah, don't hesitate to jump in.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Antoinette. Did I say your name right?
Yes.
Antoinette and Shakina.
Shakina, yep, you got it.
Thank you so much for this wonderful project. Because I'm also a teacher educator at the University of Calgary, I'm struggling with the same issue. How can I support my teacher candidates to better support EAL learners? So I've been teaching this program in the BEd program for about 16 years. So this is an issue I've been struggling from the very beginning, 16 years ago until now. So your projects offered a wonderful way to support teacher educators. So first of all, how do you tackle the issue of ethics? Because when I apply for ethics, particularly using videos for young learners, and then how do you deal with that issue?
It's really interesting how I guess the ethics process has changed over time. And I've been doing video work for many years with, vulnerable populations. And certainly initially I found that it was nearly impossible to get approval without promising my firstborn child to the assessors. But when we applied for ethics approval several years ago now, I guess starting 4 years ago, because this data was collected over several years, we didn't face the same challenge because video is quite a ubiquitous part of our world. There's more familiarity, but we also built in protections and commitments to protect the participants by blurring their faces, changing their names or blurring their names auditorily from the video content. When working with young children, we actually had to put in place important protocols to help parents understand what the purpose of all of this work would be. And I can share that it was a very exciting and positive journey to be able to work with families in community centers with the support of settlement workers to allow newcomer families to get a sense of the stakes involved if they agreed to have their children share. And so we did some workshopping to introduce some basic critical media literacy concepts to some of the families of refugee background to ensure that they fully understood when we posted the image of their child as a video on our educational website, what that would mean. So there was lots of opportunity for understanding and for essentially not providing consent. And we also had an assent process for the young people. So in a few cases, I'm really sad, the families said we could share, but the actual young person decided that they did not want to share their Me Maps.
Okay, thank you very much. And the second question is related to the Flipgrid. Is that a free software? How does that work?
Yes, it's a free app. And in fact, if you go on the Me Mapping website, we've included one of the free guides for educators. And it's a very user-friendly app. When we first started using it, we did in fact pay for a subscription, but then it became so popular, it was bought up and made accessible as an app for all educators for free.
Do you have a technical support for your project?
From what point of view? Like,
for example, if you are, because the students are also editing the video and, you know, any technical support like IT.
We actually, when we went into and worked in community center environments and in schools, we worked as teams alongside, in some cases in schools, the teacher, as well as facilitators who were hosting us in the community centers. So we had a very high ratio of adults to children or youth, so that typically there would be at least one adult for every 4 to 5 children or young people, to ensure that as we did bring our own tablets that we bought with SHRC funding to share with the children, but we also had facilitators who sometimes used their telephone to provide access to a child, because this app can be on a telephone or elsewhere. But the technical aspects were a bit complex because, as you know, in schools, there are heightened levels of security for accessing student accounts and getting online. So the educators we worked with had to be quite patient and very generous with their time, because it wasn't always easy to get around all of the access issues and bandwidth issues that exist in schools. In fact, in the community centers, I actually used some of the funds from the projects to buy additional routers, so that when they sent us into a particular space, we could still get onto the internet.
Thank you so much. I want to leave time for others. As you can tell, because I have an upcoming PhD student who wants to do similar research, so I want to borrow your ideas. So that's why I'm asking you for practical, you know, strategies. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hello, Antoinette. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to continue on a very practical side. So it's related, I know that there are a lot of students here, and you already talked about it in terms of how you approach some ethical issue related to the, you know, the use of the image of the students and everything. I mean, by the way, excellent project, by the way, very inspiring. And you know that I'm also very much interested in the use of technology, and particularly as a research tool. So really inspiring. And but I also was really impressed by the diversity of sites where you worked and collected your data. And we all know how difficult it can be sometimes to do participants recruitment, and particularly on multiple sites, and particularly when working with children. So I was wondering if you had any tips or any ideas, or talk about your experience, some lesson learned for graduate students who are attending that
Yes. Well, to all of those of you about to launch a project, I encourage you to tap into your network at the university, but also every single network that you are a part of. The opportunities that we were able to create for me mapping were entirely connected to the people we knew in different ways. So some of the educators were colleagues in the university. Some of the educators were former students in our programs. And in particular, the way I gained access to the community environment was initially through one of my doctoral students who, after graduating, became involved at a community center in Northern Toronto. And she connected me to another community center that functioned in a library. So we moved from one place to spending more time in a library setting in the Peel district, and that led to yet another different NGO that had multiple different sites becoming involved. But truly, networks were a big part of it. So I know with my own graduate students, I really encourage them to look around, and sometimes it may be a former teacher of theirs, or it may be an aunt who is an educator, but perhaps Shakina, you can jump in as well and talk about that.
Yeah, the importance of being creative in who you reach out to. That I think that was the biggest takeaway for me in terms of participant recruitment. We had initially an idea of who we wanted to work with and how we wanted to work with them, but we realized that we really had to be creative. We had to be flexible and ready to adapt our participant recruitment methods. One thing that really worked, and this was pre-COVID, of course, but was also working individually with learners in their homes. But post-COVID, I have continued to do that, on Zoom instead of going to somebody's home to do that. This way, with the young learners, parents saw that we were there not just because we wanted some, research products out of their learners, but we really cared. We wanted to take on a mentorship role. So I'd go into someone's house, and it wouldn't just be about getting a video out of them. It would be about really, working with them, helping out with their language development, their oral language practice, their writing, establishing a relationship with the parents, with the siblings, with the child. And I feel like that was, for me, a much more rewarding way of getting data for the research.
And one last comment about that. Certainly in the community environment, one of the most important elements was that there was reciprocity, and for all of the opportunities that the community organizations provided, we also listened to what they felt were important needs for their community. And we had to step way outside of our comfort zone to often support them. So one example was a community center where they had mainly families of refugee background, and also link instructors, and they weren't at all comfortable working with certain kinds of topics in class, including the topic of relationships and domestic violence. So they invited us, because of our experience as educators, to develop resources on that topic. And we worked with all of their teachers over a year and a half. And now these are resources that are not only available to their teachers, but beyond. And this was definitely not a part of our project as originally written up for funding and so on.
Great, thank you for these tips. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
Question. I'm Kim, and I'm not going to turn on my camera because I'm doing laundry, and no one wants to see that.
I want to see that.
I don't know. Sorry about that. I'm actually in my second year of Bachelor of Education at University of Ottawa. And I just love to have, this is amazing to see students in the classroom, when you're learning in that environment, it is a lot of theory and imagination about what's going to happen in the classroom. A lot about ELL thinking, but nothing direct like this. And I love the concept of the mind map, and I've done some work with Facing History, where they start with an identity map as well to start off any learning, any lesson. I'm just wondering what you have for accommodations for the end, because do you have another mind map project that you do near the end? So you create your class profile from the original discussion. Are you able to do a closing project on another mind map to see how far the children feel they come, like a metacognition of their own learning? And because I think as if you're creating your lessons, the lessons that you are planning with those mind maps for the ELL students in the beginning may not be the same, or you may want to do something different near the end. So that was my question.
In writing up the guides for teachers, what we simply have provided some starting points for you around some of the most popular me mapping or identity focused activities that we did as part of our larger project. But in answer to your question, one of the things that we did do with some of the participants was to have a focus group to talk about what it felt like to actually view the final product, the integrated me map, and we specifically focused on how they perceived that they had perhaps grown. We asked them if they felt that they had changed in any way as a result of taking part in these workshops. And indeed, that was, I think, an important reflective moment for them. Many of the English learners who had taken part in the project over several months, commented on how proud they were to see how they had really developed in terms of their ability to communicate in English from the time that they did the first workshop on a particular topic to closer to the end. And they also shared how learning about each other was really an important part of this journey, and that they learned things about each other by viewing each other's maps that they didn't know. And again, depending on the age group, in some cases that would just brought joy. In other cases, it brought joy and some embarrassment as well. But that was a type of activity that I could imagine a teacher doing with a group that had really engaged with these identity-focused activities over time. Shakina, do you want to jump in?
And in fact, Kim, that's such an important question. And I definitely, in terms of the teacher candidate learning piece, I definitely went back to me mapping several times throughout the course. And so one thing I would ask them to do is create a linguistic portrait of themselves at the beginning of the class to see how they think about themselves in terms of their language and culture and identity, and then engaging in these activities where they're really getting to know learners, real ELLs around them. And then at the end, thinking back about their own identity and see if it has changed. And usually it does change. Like at the end of the course, they're more they're prouder to really embrace that language learner aspect of themselves. At the beginning, none of them really see themselves, and when I say them, I say the teacher candidates, none of themselves really see themselves as language learners. But by the end of it, they realize that, hey, we're all actually continuing to learn languages. I actually am continuing to learn this particular language that my grandparents speak in. So they begin to adopt this shared identity with the ELLs that they're going to be supporting in the future.
I just remembered that I forgot to fully respond to Yan Guo's question about technical support. And we did have a videographer who worked with us to pull together all of the clips that would be, belong to one particular learner, because you can imagine with Flipgrid, you might have a child who had done 10 recordings in different environments with different sound quality, in some cases with their name showing, in other cases not. So we had somebody who helped us blur out names if they were wearing a name tag, or if they'd placed their name on a sheet that they were referring to. And we also had to do a lot of work with the sound quality and sound levels, because we were doing, this was entirely naturalistic. So you can imagine being in a community organization from 10 to 1 on a Saturday with children aged from 6 to 13, and there's 25 of them, and we're in the hallways, we're wherever we can, recording, rehearsing, doing activities. So that was a part of what we had budgeted for, because although Shakina and I have these skills, it's not like we had a lot of time to use them fully, and we didn't have them at the level required to get the best quality from these very spontaneous videos that were produced in not always ideal conditions. You're muted if you're trying to talk with us.
Yeah. What do you call the person name? It's called a videographer.
Videographer.
And it's part of your budget.
Yeah.
I knew I need somebody like that.
Well, I mean, the beauty though of Flipgrid is that it is an app that has evolved, and it's becoming more and more powerful all the time. And you can do a lot just with the app, but because we wanted to bring together a number of different grids, and we had to be respectful of all of the protocols and the ethics approval, we couldn't afford to do it any other way than as professionally as possible.
Yeah, because as a supervisor, I need to supervise my students, and I don't know how to do it myself. How can I supervise them?
Okay. Right.
Antoinette, sorry, just a really important question in the chat box from Seema in terms of the classroom setting. Did you notice any significant digital inequalities among the ELL newcomers compared to other students in the classroom?
So Seema, as we mentioned, we weren't in classrooms where the English learners were mainstreamed. We were in environments where all of the English learners were together. However, in the context of one of the environments we were working in, where the students had different degrees of interruption to their education, it was evident that some of the children who had more recently arrived from another part of the world might be more challenged and awkward with the technology. But other than that, we didn't have the affordance of seeing them integrated into a mainstream environment to look at a comparison or to make a comparison.
Unfortunately, I have to go because I have another meeting. I just wanted to thank you again for this great presentation. And actually, I'm going to check out the websites. And I looked at it a little bit, and it looks very, very good. So congratulations again. And I'm sure I probably will contact you again, maybe to get some insights on the presentation. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thanks, Francis.
I guess one of the other things that I should just remind you of that I brought up at the very beginning of the session was the fact that we had two very large multi-stranded projects, and that this project or the Me Mapping was just one element among many others. So when we put together these proposals, it was always that this very applied research, or this strand of the research, was always working alongside other aspects of a larger project. I don't know if our time is up, but we're happy to ask.
We got all the time in the world, I think. I mean,
Okay.
you tell us.
Okay, we're fine. I just didn't want to overstay our welcome. Jan, you have another question?
If in the future, if you're looking for collaborators from another university, I'll be more than happy to join your team.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Amazing.
And I also am proposing to organize a national, I don't know, like haven't thought it through yet, like a lobby organization across the country to advocate on behalf of all EL learners and their families. Because I realize we don't have a national organization like that. And we definitely need one across the country, because this is not only local phenomenon, national, and I attended another webinar the other day. It's also a global phenomenon.
Yes.
So I'm just putting forward that proposal.
It's a great idea. And remember that when the Canadian language benchmarks went through its evaluation process, there was a whole series of stakeholder meetings, and a lot of students were involved. I mean, this is at the adult level, of course, but to my mind, it was very unsatisfying. It was almost, well, how can I be polite about this? It wasn't, I don't think it was particularly objective. So I think, you know, it's a great idea to have something like that, as long as we can make sure that it is an independent entity from all those agendas that are at play within the government. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that it's definitely an issue. Well, one of the things that we have been trying to do is come together as teacher educators through ACLA, and hopefully we will be able to host an event similar to what we've seen recently as an event among FSL teacher educators from across the country, because I think as teacher educators, we also need to be communicating more with each other. So hopefully we can do that.
Love it.
Any other questions? It looks like people are maybe fizzling out slowly. So Shakina, did you want to make any final comment before we sign off?
I mean, thanks for being here. The only comment I wanted to add was that we're happy to send you all our slides. I don't know how that would work, but we could send it on to Doug, and Doug, if there's a way for you to get those to people who joined us today, you're welcome to send them our resources. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could. I mean, this
Mhm.
is being recorded. I have to figure out how, how this is posted and so on. We posted previous seminars on the EducLang website. So there's a way to do it, and I'll probably pick Mimi's brain or something. Someone else is how I'm going to do that, but this is quite a learning experience for me, I'll tell you. But it'll be done. But if you could send me the PowerPoint, and I can post that independently, or make sure it's out there anyway.
Yeah, and we have other resources like a teacher guide, a teacher educator guide that some people might be interested
So
in.
generous.
So send that to
Thank
you.
Yeah, very generous.
They're all posted online, so
Online
you
too.
can
Yeah.
just download them with a click.
Well, I have to run to a 3-hour Zoom class, so I might have to say bye.
Oh, all right. Well,
Thank you.
unless there are other questions, Shakina, you're fine to go. I can stay, but it doesn't seem like we have any other
I'll stay for a few minutes just in case.
questions. I see some people I know, like Mimi, you're silent. No questions from you, or Thursika, Christina.
I've heard of this project. I love it. I'm so glad you could come here and present it. And Shakina has shared some of the wonderful resources that you've put together. And I think it's really inspiring. I love it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, the invitation came from Stephanie, of course, originally. And I believe Mimi too. So, the OISE connections.
Yes.
The OISE connection.
Yes, that strong OISE connection. Thursika, do you want to say anything? I don't know if it is indeed.
Oh, sorry, I'm on mute because I've got my baby with me.
It is Thursika. Hi, Thursika.
Ah.
But yes, thank you for the great presentation. I really enjoyed it.
And hopefully your baby enjoyed it too. Okay, well, I guess we'll sign off, and we will indeed follow up with a PDF of our PowerPoint. And thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks so much for having us.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so very much, guys.
Thanks so much. Bye,
So I'm going to
everyone.
stop recording, and we'll see you around, I hope.
Yeah.
Hey.
Thank you.